I'm continued to be guided by, as I've said before, a competence and a willingness to work with the next administration. So we have removed, in our discussions, we removed immediately what their political leanings have been. Kung lumaban ba sa atin, kung sumama ba sa atin, that's not going to be part of the discussion.
That was Ferdinand Marcos Jr. talking about his strategy for selecting cabinet officials. With a wide lead against other candidates, Marcos Jr. has formed a transition team which shall also help come up with a list of his cabinet officials. An unofficial list of supposed Marcos administration bets has been circulating on social media though. And while its veracity has yet to be confirmed, one thing is for certain. Running mate Sara DuterteCarpio will be appointed Education Secretary. Time for today's biggest headlines. I'm Gretchen Ho. You're watching The Big Story. Wanting to hit the ground running, Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has appointed his running mate Sara DuterteCarpio as Education Secretary as Marcos begins to form his cabinet for the next 6 years. And while the official list has yet to be released, a close ally of Vice Presidential frontrunner Sara DuterteCarpio has started dropping some names. Marian Enriquez with The Big Story.
With partial and unofficial tallies showing his landslide victory, presumptive President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. hints that his cabinet team is already shaping up. For starters, he picked presumptive Vice President Sara DuterteCarpio to be the next education chief. A challenge that Duterte gladly accepted, noting her plans to produce skilled learners that will advocate peace and discipline. The incumbent DepEd believes the agency will be in good hands with DuterteCarpio's leadership. Despite being open to the appointment, some groups would still prefer someone with a background in education.
Siyempre, we would prefer a teacher, or someone from education sector or from the academy, to head the Department of Education. But also, we recognize that the appointment is the appointing powers is rests on the powers of the president.
DuterteCarpio's ally, albeit 2nd District Representative Joey Salceda, also has some guesses on who might be part of the incoming cabinet.
For energy, I see Mikey Arroyo. I would say for health, I hear Edsel Salbana, and of course, for justice, probably it's Rodante Marcoleta because he withdrew. Not candidate, is not under the 1-year rule. For public works, I hear 2 names, basically Alpenco and the incumbent, which is Congressman Mercado. Is the secretary. Tugade is probably the only carryover secretary for transportation. So I see a lot of lists that are floating around.
But besides these, Marcos Jr. says the economic crisis will be the utmost priority for the next several years.
The economic managers are going to be critical for the next several years because of the pandemic and the economic crisis. So that is something that we are looking at very carefully.
Marcos is set to take over an economy that has to deal with elevated levels of inflation and mounting debt. For News 5, Marian Enriquez, we are One News.
Meanwhile, Marcos Jr. receives a call from U.S. President Joe Biden congratulating him on his victory. The White House said that Biden anticipates improved relations with the Philippines on key issues, including human rights. Marcos Jr., meanwhile, assured Biden that the country regards the U.S. as an ally and partner and has invited Biden to his inaugural on June 30. Chinese President Xi Jinping has also reached out to Marcos. In a statement, China's ambassador to the Philippines said that the country is looking forward to working with the next president, and they are confident that the relationship of the countries will strengthen more under Marcos. Canada's ambassador to the Philippines has likewise congratulated the Philippines for the conduct of the 2022 elections. Actor Robin Padilla remains in the top spot with over 13 million votes in the May 2022 senatorial race. Based on the partial official tabulation of the COMELEC, sitting as the National Board of Canvassers, Padilla so far has gotten 13.2 million votes. He is closely followed by Congresswoman Loren Legarda and broadcaster Raffy Tulfo, who both have over 12 million votes. Now behind the top three are re-electionist Win Gatchalian, Sorsogon Governor Cheese Escudero, and Congressman Alan Peter Cayetano. In seventh place is former DPWH Secretary Mark Villar with more than 9 million votes. He's followed by re-electionist Senator Miguel Zubiri and Senator Joel Villanueva, also with over 9 million votes. In 10th and 11th place are former Senator J.V. Ejercito and re-electionist Senator Risa Hontiveros. Capping off that top 12 is former Senator Jinggoy Estrada with more than 7 million votes so far. These are the other big stories tonight. The canvassing of votes for senators have yet to be finalized, but as early as now, one name keeps popping up as the possible Senate president. Meanwhile, the Philippine economy has expanded by 8.3% in the first quarter of the year as pandemic restrictions begin to relax. And a time off with my girls, Vice President Leni Robredo tells reporters she will be heading to New York this weekend to attend the graduation of her daughter, Jillian. More of these big stories after the break. You're still watching The Big Story. I'm Gretchen Ho. Based on current tallies, both chambers of Congress are shaping up to be super majorities. And with very little opposition, can the legislative bodies ensure checks and balances? Questions also now point as to who will head both houses. Camille Samonte with the report.
With a supermajority now forming in the Senate, questions now point as to who will sit as the upper chamber's next Senate president. Former Senator Jinggoy Estrada, who currently sits at the bottom of the top 12 based on the partial and official tally, told One News The Chiefs that one name keeps coming up.
Narinig ko lang sa mga balita na meron yung mga ibang senador na nag-press release na meron yata silang napili na bagong Senate President. Yung mga lumalabas po ng mga balita si Senator Cynthia Villar.
Even Senator Bato de la Rosa, in a separate TV interview, hinted at the possibility of the elder Villar leading the Senate. If the latest count would push through, the chamber would be packed with families, from the Villars, the Cayetanos to the Ejercitos. What's more, there would only be one opposition lawmaker, Senator Risa Hontiveros. The re-electionist told Radyo 5 that she will ensure checks and balances will remain. She also plans to form a minority group with at least 3 to 4 senators.
Kung makabuo kami ng 4 o 3, buo pa rin ang kumpiyansa ko na magsusumikap kami at magiging kapaki-pakinabang kami.
Just like in the Senate, the Congress is also shaping up to be a supermajority. But who will be the next speaker? On Thursday, the National Unity Party threw its weight behind Tacloban City Representative Martin Romualdez for speakership. He is also Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s cousin. The NUP made the endorsement, citing Romualdez's quote, exemplary service as a majority leader. Neophyte lawmakers, led by Marcos Jr.'s son Sandro Marcos, also expressed support for his uncle. But what are the odds of this happening? Representative Joey Salceda said it's quite high.
I think basically the speakership will be uncontested. Congress generally gravitates towards a person which has the confidence of the president, and obviously his first cousin with the presumptive president.
For News 5, Camille Samonte, we are One News.
Meanwhile, President Duterte sends his advance congratulations to his successor while he waits for COMELEC to officially proclaim the winner. In his pre-recorded talk to the people, Duterte says he hopes the incoming national officials will serve the country with all their might. Duterte urges COMELEC to investigate the alleged election-related irregularities. Duterte has also signed Administrative Order 47, or the Presidential Transition Committee, to ease a peaceful transfer of powers. Executive Secretary Salvador Medialdea says under the administrative order, cabinet officials will still perform their task in the remaining days of Duterte's term as they prepare for a proper turnover.
We assure the public that within the coming weeks, the entire executive branch will continue to perform and dispense with its duties, but ready to turn over the reins to the next president. It is the goal of the PTC to ensure a smooth and seamless transition while ensuring the continued and efficient delivery of public service.
For the big story in sports, the Philippines strikes gold in the 31st Southeast Asian Games courtesy of Francine Padios of Pencak-Silat. But her victory was more than just winning a medal. Find out Francine's story in my report. Pencak-Silat athlete Francine Padios proudly paraded the Philippine flag after bagging the country's first gold in the 31st Southeast Asian Games. Francine delivered a superb performance in the semi-tunggal singles event, besting defending champion Pupsa Arumsari of Indonesia.
Nakakalutang po yung sitwasyon ngayon kasi nga po, gold medal po, tapos first pa po. So parang, wow.
The victory, though, meant so much more for the young Aklanon. Francine dedicated this to her ailing father who has fallen into a coma after a car accident last December.
Pauwi po siya galing sa Iloilo, work niya po. Pinilit po talaga niya na umuwi kahit sa sobrang pagod. Nakatulog po siya sa habang nagde-drive. Nabangga niya po yung bus. Sa taga niyang gumising, nainis na rin ako eh. Sabi ko, Dad, bakit di ka pa nagigising? Maglalaro na ako, hindi ka pa rin nagigising.
my instruction nga was to give her all the time that she needs to spend with the father. Nagulat ako, alam mo, na 6 days lang, bumalik na si Francine sa training. Sabi sa akin ng nanay, ang sabi daw ni Francine, mas makakatulong siya kapag nag-training siya ng mabuti at kapag nakapanalo siya ng ginto.
Francine says she draws strength from her father, who never forgets to inspire her before her games.
May kasi si daddy sa akin bago ako maglaro, magsispeech siya sa akin yan na mga kumbaga motivation lang.
Francine says her 300,000 peso cash incentive for getting gold will all go to the medical bills of her father, but they will still need more help. For those who want to help, you can send your donations directly to Francine's accounts.
Ang mind ko talaga po na dapat ipanalo ko or dapat di ako matalo kasi nga kapag matalo ako dito, saan ko makukuha yung pera na ipang gusto sa hospital po.
Gretchen Ho, We Are One News. Time for another quick break. When we return, a strong start to the year as the economy expands by 8.3% owing to looser mobility curbs. And Vice President Leni Robredo assures supporters that she will continue to serve until her term ends on June 30. But in the meantime, we'll be enjoying some quality time with her girls. Details after the break. You're still watching The Big Story. I'm Gretchen Ho. Despite an outbreak in COVID infections due to the Omicron variant in January, the economy made a huge turnaround in the first quarter, expanding by 8.3%, all thanks to consumption picking up as restrictions ease. Shaila Francisco with the story.
Despite the surge of the Omicron variant, the country's economy still managed to grow during the first quarter. The Philippines' gross domestic product grew 8.3%, largely driven by the reopening of the economy. But growth in the succeeding quarters will face risks brought about by the Ukraine-Russia tension and pandemic-induced debt. This is what presumptive President Bongbong Marcos will inherit once he is in office. However, his economic plans remain unclear, at least for some economists and government officials.
The problem with the Marcos campaign was that it did not present a clear, coherent program, including a program for economic recovery. Now that he has won, we just have to wait and see.
The best way to address some of these concerns is, as the investors and other analysts have mentioned, is for the new administration to lay out its agenda.
For now, economists say that Marcos Jr. should prioritize forming an economic team within the first 100 days.
The most important item there is the credible and competent economic team. Kasi it will hold everything together when it comes to the policies, the reforms, on the economy.
For its part, the National Economic and Development Authority wants the new administration to immediately address problems on inflation and economic recovery. NEDA Chief Carl Kendrick Chua also said that it is crucial for the new set of leaders to maintain prudent fiscal policy and continuity in various reforms set by the Duterte administration. This includes the rice tariffication law, the comprehensive tax reform measures, liberalization bills, and the Build, Build, Build program.
Well, these pronouncements, I think, are in the right directions. The details are important. How to get it done? As I mentioned, we may agree on the problem, but how to solve it, we have to do it properly. Because everything is a trade-off.
They are also preparing to assist the upcoming administration and clarify with them their recommendation. Shaila Francisco, we are One News.
The former chief of the Presidential Commission for Good Government reacted to a now viral photo of the Marcos family in Imelda Marcos's living room. The photo shows a painting of Pablo Picasso, which has been reported missing. Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s media team sent to reporters photos of the presidential frontrunner visiting his mother in her home. But what caught the attention of many was the image of Picasso's Femi Couché 6. Former PCGG chief Andy Bautista even tweeted that it should be seized by the PCGG while they still can. The piece is one of 8 paintings that the Sandigan Bayan ordered to be seized from the Marcos family back in 2014. In the documentary The Kingmaker, Bautista said the painting was removed when they tried to seize it. There's no verification yet if the image is an original or a replica. Still on the elections, the city of Manila welcomes its first female mayor. Mayor-elect Honey Lacuna has vowed to continue the programs of outgoing mayor and conceded presidential candidate Isko Moreno. Roman Lopez with the story.
Manila Mayor-elect Honey Lacuna Pangan could not hide her emotion as the City of Manila's Board of Canvassers calls her name, proclaiming her the new mayor. At that moment, she gave a warm hug to her father, former Vice Mayor Danny Lacuna, who also previously attempted to become Manila mayor. With more than 530,000 votes, Lacuna officially wins the mayoralty race in the capital city. But aside from this, Lacuna also makes history as the first female mayor in the city's 450-year history. Lacuna bested 5 other candidates for Manila mayor.
Masayang-masaya para sa pamilya ko. Siyempre, matagal na namin itong pinangarap para sa tatay ko. Very honored po. After 450 years ng history ng Manila, nagkaroon na rin po ng babae. Thank you sa aking yorme na pinagkatiwala niya po sa akin na kaya ko po.
A physician by profession, Lacuna first worked in the government at the City Health Office from 1995 to 2004, before serving as councilor from 2004 to 2013. Lacuna also became vice mayor for 2 Manila mayors. First was Joseph Estrada in 2016 and recently for Isko Moreno in 2019. Lacuna promised a motherly touch in governing Manila, as well as continuity of programs started by outgoing Mayor Isko Moreno.
It doesn't mean naman pag babae ay hindi ka malambot ka, hindi. siguro mararamdaman na nila ngayon yung pagmamahal ng isang mother.
On her first 100 days in office, Lacuna pledged to continue existing programs for housing and health-related matters.
First 100 days, syempre, lahat ng mga programs na sinimulan namin ni Yorme, titingnan ko kung ano yung kailangan namin i-fast track.
Vice Mayor-elect Yul Sarbonieto meanwhile thanked Mayor Isko Moreno for what he called good governance that he brought to the city. Lacuna and Cervo belong to the local party Ascenso Manileño, which bagged 98% of Manila's total votes.
Siyempre, masarap dahil yan sa tinanim ni Yorme Isko Moreno Dumagoso sa Maynila. At kami ang umanin lahat noon.
But Lacuna admits mixed emotions since her former political partner, Moreno, lost in the presidential race.
Yun po ang nakakalungkot. Bagamat hindi po pinalad ang atin pong Yorme, nandyan pa rin po siya lagi sa tabi namin dahil siya po yung pinakaama ng aming grupo. Kasama po yung tatay ko at alam po namin na hindi naman niya kami pababayaan.
Lacuna says she will continue to seek guidance from Moreno.
Bibigyan niyo ng pwesto, consultancy. Ito si Mayor Isko.
Hindi pa ho namin napapag-usapan yan eh. Pahinga muna po siguro. But he will always be my mentor.
For News 5, Romel Lopez. We are One News.
Another big story in sports. After several delays due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the 31st Southeast Asian Games in Hanoi, Vietnam is set to open tonight. Although numerous sports such as Courage, Pencaksilat, football, handball, kickboxing, and diving have already commenced earlier this week, the bulk of the action of the 40 featured sports has yet to start. The Philippines is eyeing to retain its top spot in the medal tally, which it achieved in the 2019 Southeast Asian Games. Currently, the Philippines is at 4th spot in the latest medal tally with 11 medals. Now, that includes a single gold medal, courtesy of Mary Francine Padios, along with 5 silver medals and 5 bronzes. Now that the campaign is over, Vice President Leni Robredo says she will be taking time off with her girls and will head to New York for the graduation of her youngest daughter, Jillian. From paintings to handicrafted earrings, Vice President Leni Robredo went live on Facebook to show several gifts she received during the campaign season. Now, during this Facebook Live, Robredo talked about her post-election plans, which include spending time with family. Robredo assures the public that she will continue the programs of the Office of the Vice President and has thought of auctioning off the items gifted to her during the campaign to raise funds for projects. During the live stream, Robredo can be seen in a room overflowing with gifts from supporters, such as paintings, bags, and earrings, which she plans to give back to supporters as a souvenir of the campaign.
Ayoko kasi siyang sarilihin kasi ang feeling ko hindi ko naman to personal. Ano ito, parang expression talaga siya ng pakiramdam ng sobrang daming tao na sumama sa atin sa laban na to.
And that wraps up today's big story. Catch us again tomorrow at 8 p.m. on Signal Channels 8 and 250. Please like our Facebook page, One News. For more in-depth analysis, visit our webpage, onenews.ph. Mask on, wash hands, and get vaccinated, Philippines. On behalf of Robbie Alampay, I'm Gretchen Ho, and we are One News.